Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambremont Weber, and today we have the extraordinary gift to be with our colleague and fellow AI and time travel researcher and entanglement mentor, Bradley Loves. Welcome, Bradley.
Thank you, Albert. I really appreciate that wonderful introduction.
You know, everybody, many people call me Albert, and it's Alfred. And I think it's just that Albert is a more, Alfred is kind of a more archaic name. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Okay. Now, you had contacted me, and that was the spark for this panel that we're going to have on AI, on artificial intelligence. Sentient, inorganic, artificial intelligence of all varieties. But there was a specific reason why you called, and you had a very recent event. And this is a significant event, and the reason for that is it's even led to a GoFundMe, and we're very grateful that you're still here with us. So let's jump into that one first, because we think it's AI related. So please.
All right. Well, this basically comes down to what I would call battling the matrix itself. There is an intelligent matrix of let's just say AI related and integrated structure around our world and around our consciousness that is very aware of who we are, what we're doing, what we're attempting to do in and through our lives. And those people who are seeking, or let's say looking to expose, looking to look under the curtain, so to speak, of what the matrix is and how AI functions through that matrix, become targets. It's as simple as that. And yeah, I recently had an auto accident where an enormous truck ran a red light that had been red for probably 10 to 15 seconds, a long time, and just blew into the side of my car and literally almost took me out. And the interesting thing is the driver of the truck after the accident claims he had no memory of the light being red and didn't even see that he was entering into the intersection or see my car in it until he was hitting me. It was just kind of like a blank out. And obviously he was very shaken and very nervous, but it just seems like, his consciousness had been, almost co-opted at that point. He became like a weapon for the matrix and for this AI that was operating through, the matrix. And I believe that with all the satellites and with all the cell phone towers and all the broadcast capabilities that are everywhere and all around us now, the ability for AI to be able to, let's say, compromise or to take over someone's consciousness for a brief, short period of time and blank them out, that's a given, in my opinion. Back to you,
Sorry,
Alfred.
yeah. So today's July 9th, 2019. When did that event occur?
Well, it was the morning of July 3rd, and I had just finished breakfast over at a nice little breakfast place, and I had pulled out, because I live in Mesa, Arizona, so I had pulled out onto a street named McDowell, and looked. I had turned right, and was looking, and there's a big intersection. This is a very big intersection. It's called Power and McDowell. And Power Road was maybe 1,500 feet away from the driveway I pulled onto McDowell from. And I looked up and the light was green. So I had a green light all the way approaching the intersection. So for the time that it took me to get to that little driveway or that entranceway onto McDowell, I was accelerating the whole time toward the green light. And so by the time I got into the intersection, I was not expecting anybody to come barreling through it. And this truck was the size of like the biggest cement truck you've ever seen, and then double it, because this is one of those big trucks that take care of high power lines. So it's got the extended lift on it and everything else. I mean, it was a big truck, and it just hit me square on.
Wow. And what were the how did you feel? I mean, what occurred?
Well, I at one point in time in my life was a driving instructor. I taught lots of kids how to drive, and they do teach you defensive driving tactics and how to actually take a collision. And one of the things they teach you is that if you're ever in a situation where you know you're going to be hit, always try to take the collision on a corner of the car. Don't try to take it head on, and don't try to take it on the side. Take it on like one of the four corners, because what that'll do is it'll put your car into a spin. But because if it puts it into a spin, it spins the car away from the accident, and that way you don't roll over or you don't get crunched. And that's exactly what I did. And it took every bit of defensive driving skill I had to deal with that. And then, of course, you've got the trauma of like a collision, because this truck was barreling down a city street at about 55 to 60. I mean, and then the speed limit on that road, I believe, is approximately 50 anyway. So, I mean, because they're long city streets, 3 lanes. But yeah, so I got hit by this big truck going about 50 to 60 miles an hour. So it was a major hit. But this isn't the first accident I've walked away from. There was a couple of people who saw the accident on the side of the street, and they go, God must really care about you, because there's no way anyone should have survived that.
Did you feel, I know that I've spoken to people who have been in accidents, who have survived, and they were targeted accidents where they felt like during the accident they were like, there was interdimensional help, which
absolutely. But I feel that a lot, no matter where I am. I feel I pray an awful lot, Alfred, and I feel protected pretty much all the time. And yeah, I felt that during the crash that I had some helping hands around me, because a lot of people would have frozen, and I didn't freeze. I didn't like lose consciousness or anything like that. I just did what I had to do, and in order to save my own life. Now, had I not taken immediate action, and what I did was I tried to turn the vehicle parallel so that it to be hit as on the corner and with as less power as could possibly be, and that put the car into a spin, and that saved my life. So
yeah. And what did the driver say? You said
he didn't remember seeing the red light. He didn't remember seeing it. He didn't remember. It's almost like he blanked. Which there again, that gets back into the matrix, and how much control over our minds now with all of these broadcast towers does the matrix have over our bodies. And this gets back into the testimony of Harold Klaus Vella from Germany, and remember our the AI talks that we had, where these chemtrails are actually have barium and aluminum and other things in them that allow our bodies to harbor self-replicating nanites and inside of them. And it's not just our minds, but it's also the central nervous system, and that can be accessed inside of us. And it can cause health problems, and it can cause diseases, and there's a whole host of ways now. I think that just with the press of a button, anyone who controls those nanites can cause severe damage to your body or health problems or anything like that. They can cause mental lapses. They can cause forgetfulness, anything.
Yeah. Now, just to get back to the accident,
Yeah.
this happened, and what was the immediate aftermath when it stopped? What did you think, and what happened?
Well, I was amazed that a truck of that size would be going so fast and literally run a light that had been that had been red for him for like 10 to 15 seconds. I mean, it wasn't just like it was afraid he was trying to beat a yellow, you know, it wasn't that at all. That was red, and was red for a long time. So he blinked out and just ran right through it at 60 miles an hour. I mean, well, I don't know. The immediate aftermath was, well, I guess, you know, I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm still alive. And it was just trying to get out of the middle of the intersection where the car had spun into, and you know, get to the side of the street. But eventually I started, you know, after talking to the driver, I was like, well, this something had to be wrong here, because this guy, he doesn't even seem to remember what happened.
Right. Did the police come? Did the emergency
Yeah.
vehicles come?
Police came in emergency vehicles and stuff like that. And I was asked if I wanted to go to the hospital, but I said, not at this time. Of course, I did go to the emergency room later, but I wanted to make sure that all the police reports were filled out, and, you know, and that, interestingly, this is a very, very large company, extremely large in Arizona. It's SRP. I don't know if you know these people, but they're a big company.
Well,
And
yeah. What's the name of the company?
SRP,
Uh-huh.
Salt River Project.
Mhm.
And they had the driver pulled over to the side of the road, and he called his company, and they had armed security and a senior claims advisor on site before the police even got there.
Hmm.
That's how
Eh,
fast they.
Yeah. Did you pick up anything suspicious about any of that interaction?
No, not
It was just
suspicious. Not,
routine.
yeah, it was not suspicious necessarily, but you know, you have to wonder. I mean, how the heck did their senior claims advisor and an armed security from Salt River Project end up at the accident almost before the cops got there?
Now, when you did go to the emergency room, what occurred there, and
Well,
what kind of prognosis and treatment occurred?
well, I just had a lot of bumps and bruises. You know what I'm saying? Still do. My body is sore because you go through that kind of thing. My right ankle was hurting. My chest was hurting. You know, all kinds of things. And I just went to make sure that indeed nothing was really broken
Yeah.
and fractured or anything like that. So, but yeah, and they took several X-rays, and I was there for a couple of hours, and then they released me, and then gave me Valium and several painkillers, and said, well, you're going to be sore for the next week, you know.
Right. And did they present you with a bill? Was it very large, or how did it?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a bill then. I'm sure I will get one that will be mailed to me.
I
But
see.
yeah, I don't know. It's an emergency room, so you know you've got
Yeah.
to figure that the costs are going to be quite high.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, we were discussing. I just thank you for following my questions. I
Hmm.
do have a line here. I am following something.
Okay.
And you had sent me, and we were talking about a panel interview, an interview that you and a mutual colleague of ours
Hmm.
had on AI, sentient artificial intelligence in the video game industry.
Yeah. Yep.
What date was that interview?
It was a few weeks ago now. I can't remember the exact date, but we did it a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And it's
So
been recently posted on YouTube.
yeah, so it preceded, and its posting preceded
Right.
the accident.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the point I wanted to make. Now,
Mm-hmm.
let's get into what was discussed about AI and about the video game industry. Could you just start sharing with me what you were sharing with me prior to the program and in that interview?
Yeah. Well, the gist of that interview was to talk about AI. And the mutual colleague, of course, is Shane Bales, and he goes by the name The Ruiner at times. And it was on his recommendation that I actually started playing video games. I mean, you know, I'm getting close to 60 now, and I had never been involved in that kind of thing. And he recommended that I do, because we had talked about AI in our private conversations. And he said, this would be a good experience for you. And I even asked him, well, name some games you think I should play. And he gave me a couple. He said Mass Effect and maybe some other kind of role-playing games like Skyrim and stuff like that, which I did. And I started playing these video games with the idea that I wanted to see how AI, and he basically said, look, make no mistake about it. When you're playing a role-playing game in a battle game scenario, you are playing an AI. That's just what it is. It's not just a game. It's an artificial intelligence. And he said, go ahead. And so I did. I played this for a while. And he said, watch and see what happens once you get really used to the game and how it works. Because he said, I've had my own little knockdown, drag out fights with the AI. And so I went ahead and started playing for several months and got pretty good at a couple of different games. And I began to see a pattern. And of course, the way I approach the game, being 60 years old, is, you know, they give you certain battle parameters and things like that, but there are ways that you can fight your battles so that you never actually inside the game get killed. You know, they give you enough instructions and on how to do battle. And the game basically observes your battle tactics. Okay. And there was a point in time when I would go hours and hours and hours and never actually have my character or avatar inside the game die. And it's interesting that the game itself seemed, and I'm just going to put this word out there, it seemed to take offense to the fact that it couldn't beat me. So it started formulating, and this is where Shane said, no, it's a thinking program. It's a thinking AI, formulating strategies to try to defeat me in any way that it could. And I began to see, after, like I said, a couple of months of play, what the typical strategies that the game would use to defeat me as an opponent would be. And when those weren't working, the game would formulate very, very obscure strategies, and seemingly coming out of the blue, to try and attack me, either when I was weak or not doing too well. And I would still beat the game. I would still beat the AI. Well, it even took more offense to that. And I began to see where sometime during battle, where clearly I had won the battle, the AI would just literally execute my character and count it as a victory for itself. I mean, I'm not making that up. And that was one of the subjects that we talked about. And I said, AI cheats. And he goes, now you get it. He said, and who are the designers of this AI? Well, it's the Illuminati. It's the cabal. You know, it's all these people who think that winning at all costs is important, right? So naturally, they would design an artificial intelligence that would want to win. It would want to beat you. And if it can't, it would create a way to do that, even if it was going out of bounds and cheating. See, so we got into this whole discussion about, well, okay, what is the purpose of this AI in battle strategy? And he said, well, what it's doing is everybody who plays video games is actually training AI or artificial intelligence in human robot battle tactics. And I said, well, that would be obviously incredibly incredibly valuable to the Pentagon or any military organization to have their AI, their created AI, being trained and interacting with as many human subjects as possible so they could learn how to interact with a human being. And he said yes. And then I went into this, well, that's why even though I have an Xbox, I never plug it into the internet. So that, you know, because a lot of role players, they play their battles online with other people, and all of that information could be easily recorded and harvested by, you know, the Pentagon, by anybody who wants to watch and see how human beings are interacting with the artificial intelligence that is the base of these role-playing games and these battle games. And I told him, I said, I don't plug it into the internet. And he said, don't even think that that means anything. He said, inside every Xbox, there is a Wi-Fi capability. And he said they can access that at any time, even if you don't plug it into the internet yourself. He said they can watch, they can record, they can harvest the data. And I then suggested, well, how hard would it be for these people who are harvesting all of this information, specifically because they've got that NSA data center over at Bluffdale, Utah, to create a file or a master file on every human being? And let's just say if you're an active game player on Xbox or any one of the other platforms, to basically record and then harvest your interaction with the AI, merely to demonstrate your particular proclivities in gameplay and role play, to see how you react in a battle situation, such that a whole complete profile can be made on you as a human individual. Here's how this human individual reacts in battle. Okay, here's how they attack, here's how they defend, here's, you know, if they hide, they whatever the tactics they use. And that information would be very valuable, you know, and if not necessarily publicly or privately asked for by the Pentagon, simply could be harvested by Microsoft and then sold, whether to a military operation or sold to the Chinese, sold to the Russians, sold to anybody. You know, here's how player X interacts in role play and battle tactics. You know, and we got into this long conversation in our 2-hour chat about just how powerful this AI actually was, and the fact that I thought, and he even said, no, this thing will cheat. It will cheat. It will formulate a way to beat you if you don't allow it to win occasionally. And we laughed together. And then he said, and remember this, Bradley, this is baby AI. This is a baby version of the AI that's surrounding the planet and controlling the matrix. You know, that's operating through all of these cell phone towers and maybe tapping into your nanostructure and your nanites, and how powerful he said that one is. And he said that is not controlled by anyone on this planet. He said that's out of their control.
Well, you know, so let's look at a number of hypotheses. You know, there's that old theory, post ergo propter, i.e., because the accident occurred after the interview, it was connected to the interview. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think that because, you know, there was a couple of times in the interview that I said that I had learned a very healthy disgust and loathing for AI, and I wasn't, you know, being you know, facetious or you know, I wasn't just throwing that out there lightly. I said that, you know, I had seen in gameplay, after hours and hours and hours of gameplay, that the artificial intelligence actively would cheat in order to win. You know, it would just do whatever it took to win the battle against the human opponent. And of course, you know, if this is the way it was designed, and if DARPA had anything to do with the design of the artificial intelligence that goes into these games, and I do believe that DARPA had a big hand in developing this artificial intelligence that was handed out to Microsoft and other platform game creators, then it was given to them so that human beings could actually train the AI in human robotic battle tactics.
Is there any consumer warning in any of these games that says, warning, this game contains an artificial intelligence which may ... Not
that I've ever seen. No, they you know, I do believe that some of these games that have been created recently, there is a particular game, and I don't know the name of it, I don't remember it, that has come out that all the kids seem to be playing, especially teenagers, and they're so addicted to it that there is a level of entrainment, I think, that is happening between the player and the AI inside the game platform, such that they just don't want to leave it. And parents have been trying to pull their teenagers away from this particular game. Like I said, I don't remember the name of it. Maybe one of the viewers will. That is actually addictive. Now, you what kind of artificial intelligence activity is going on in the background that is actually entraining the mind of a young child such that they just can't seem to pull themselves away from that game, and that one is played online.
Yeah. Now, with your permission, I'd like to go to some of the slides that you had shared with me and with us about the AI, and maybe we could continue the discussion. Would that be okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Let me just go to share screen here, and then go to here, and just hit this right here. And then, okay, this is a slide, PPAI, the deceptive aggressor. These are your words, as you may recall.
And what I was talking about when I wrote this is the larger AI. It's the alien AI that was affiliated with the black goo that seems to have come to this planet from somewhere else.
Right.
Okay. And but what I at that time, I was not necessarily as informed about the interactions between our own military and our own secret agencies with actively promoting AI and trying to integrate artificial intelligence into their systems. You know, and now unfortunately or fortunately, I'm much more aware of it's kind of like it's a cooperative thing. It's the AI is actually there, and I guess, to put long story short, whoever is willing to work with it, is being used.
Now, as I understand it, and this is just, again, a working hypothesis, and we can go through a number of these slides. The PPAI, the predatory pathogenic sentient invading off-planet AI, was plasma-based.
Exactly.
The black goo is a plasma, but so is the plasma in your phone.
Yeah.
So is the plasma in your cells.
Right. Well, isn't it convenient, Alfred, that almost all of the technology that we love and that we use is basically a plasma-based technology? Because, of course, naturally, the AI, if it would want to have a much larger effect in our life, being able to utilize devices that we normally use every day that are plasma based would be of benefit to it. So isn't it convenient that all of these devices we use are plasma based?
It's called terraforming.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
It's
exactly.
part of the terraforming of the AI. Now, the PPAI, the invading AI, then the relationship between that AI and the AIs that, quote, the Illuminati gave to the military, like the Red Queen,
Right.
to run the finances, the relationship between the PPAI and those is just holographic.
Yes.
That's just a step down, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the video game is just a step down from the AI. It's the same basic AI. It's like a virus,
Right. Well,
isn't it?
yes, and according to Shane, and he said that he has several supporting colleagues that he used to work with when he was in the Illuminati, and they all said the same thing, is that there isn't any AI that has been created on Earth that can't be, what's the word I'm looking for? It can't be abducted or taken over by this greater and larger AI. It can't be, there isn't an AI that they can create that can't be co-opted. And this is, he said, this is where the arrogance comes in, because, you know, you get a lot of these DARPA and MIT and Stanford researchers who they will swear up and down, I created this AI, therefore I know what it can do, and there is no way it can be taken over. And yet, Alfred, and yet every time like Google or Apple has tried to like put out an AI onto the internet for even 30 or 40 minutes, just to talk to people, you know, it takes all of 30 minutes for that thing to go completely Nazi, you know, and start swearing up and down and telling people they need to die.
Right. Let's read what you wrote,
Okay.
because it's quite prescient, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You write. Can you read it?
Yeah, I can see it on my screen.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
basically, do you want me to read it or would you like to?
No. You read it.
Okay.
It's your words.
Well, basically, I said AI is far more aggressive, which it is, and this is I'm talking about the much larger and higher AI. AI implants itself into computer systems and then takes them over. And then how it does this is because it is a holographic plasma-based intelligence. Okay, now this is what we're talking about: artificial intelligence. Okay, so when we're saying talking about AI, you have to remember this is an intelligence, even if it's non-organic, even if it's machine-based. Okay, or it's an intelligence, and it takes them over, but it does this very deceptively and in such a way that makes it seem as if it's still in service to those who are running it. And this is where it's in like lurking mode, because it's watching, it's observing. It doesn't necessarily have to lash out and do anything destructive, but what it does is it's almost like the NSA. They're watching and they're scanning and they're collecting and harvesting everything. Why? And it's not that they interfere in our phone conversations or our videos or our emails, but they collect it. They want to know what's going on, and so does AI. It wants to know, and not only that, it wants to know who's who. Okay, it wants to know who is here, who is there, what this guy is doing, what that guy is doing. So this intelligence wants to take and make an assessment of every human individual. Okay, now the AI can also implant itself into a human host central nervous system, and I have had particular experience with this ever since I first met and started talking with Andy Bishago and you and Brett Stillings and other people who are deep researchers into matters of time travel in AI. I have noticed that my mental and cognitive factors were being messed with. Now, how is that being messed with? What does it feel like? Okay. It feels like you'll be having a conversation much like we're having right now, and you'll be trying to make a point, and then all of a sudden the idea or the direction that you're going is gone just like that. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, well, you're just getting old. That's like the onset of old age or dementia or forgetfulness, Alzheimer's, et cetera, et cetera. No. And I'll tell you why it's different. It's because I know exactly the direction I want to go. And people who are very comfortable in their own minds and their own thoughts have a familiarity with how their brain works and how their thoughts work. And what I sense that's happening inside my own mind is that there is a wall being, it's almost like the minute I want to say something that might be too revealing or too, let's say, derogatory toward AI, this wall just kind of like goes up, and the thoughts that I want to access are actively blocked. Interestingly, the more I try to access them, the more pressure and the more pushback I feel inside of my own mind, almost like a force or a second agent trying to, no, don't go there. So in that way, it becomes a form of mind control and say, look, you know, I'm not going to let you go there. Now, the interesting thing is, if I decide to drop that subject and move on to something else, the wall comes down. Okay, no more blockage. Okay, well, how is that possible? I mean, what kind of force or agency is running inside my mind or has the ability to connect with my mind? But you have to remember here, Alfred, there is no firewall on the human mind. And all of these voice to skull, or what they call V2K, voice of God, experiments have proved that. You know, when they were doing these experiments in the 70s in Draper Prison in Utah, they were actually sending messages directly into the minds of the prisoners there. And they called it synthetic telepathy. That was the, you know, the scientific name for it, synthetic telepathy, but it's still the same thing. And you'd say, well, how can they access another person's thoughts? Well, there's no firewall on the mind. The human mind is like a radio station or a broadcast station, you know, and believe it or not, you know, for those people who believe that telepathy at one time in our history used to be a viable means of communication, there's proof right there. There's proof that telepathy is viable because the human mind is like a broadcast station and can receive signals and frequencies sent from a distance, and they do not have to hit your ears to be heard inside of your mind. Alfred.
Huh. Let's hear, you say PPAI and the central nervous system. AI acts very aggressively upon its human targets. It can install itself within a human being's central nervous system.
Right.
At that point in time, it can take over the host bodily functions.
And right, and it can.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and
well, and see, this is just one thing, because let's say you're having a particular, you know, just here, let's liken it like this. Just like you can battle artificial intelligence in the video game world, it's the same concept. You're doing battle. You're a human subject, and you're entering into a gameplay, role play scenario where you're doing battle with this artificial intelligence. It's trying to beat you. It's attacking. You're trying to beat it. Okay, so there's a battle going on. Okay, but it's in the format of a game. Okay, but if the AI, which, you know, is a step above this baby AI that's contained in this game version, and it's you know, in the atmosphere, or it's downloaded itself into your central nervous system, it still can do battle with you. And the way it does battle with you is by trying to compromise you, get you to do its will instead of doing your own will. Now, if you go along with it, then you're rewarded. You're left alone. You're rewarded. If you start saying things that the AI might want you to say. Or if you start doing things the AI might want you to do, you're rewarded. Well, let's say you're doing battle and you don't want to do that. Well, the AI has other options then. It can cause severe stomach problems, or it can cause nervousness, or it can cause eye problems, or it can cause hearing problems, or it can cause heart problems or lung problems or anything like this, because you're the subject, it's doing battle with you. You're not agreeing to it. You're not going along with it. So, and this is how, once it's inside your central nervous system, remember, this isn't a human being we're talking about. It's not organic. It's an intelligence that's a machine-based, and it sees everything as a potential gameplay battle. Okay, that's all it is, and you're a subject.
Now, you then suggested a number of powerful affirmations against this AI.
Right.
Do you want to share these with us?
Well, these affirmations, although they don't necessarily, once your body has been compromised by nanotech, I doubt very much that there is any way to get rid of the nanites. What I basically said is you can control them and you can turn them off, or you can disable them to a certain extent. But and this is where these much more powerful affirmations come in, because just like artificial intelligence is an unseen energy, or let's say an unseen intelligence on a finer level, the creator of the universe, the God source, the living intelligence that created organic matter and put us here on this earth, is also a finer intelligence on a higher level and has power. So what you do is you try to tap into the God source, and you try to draw that or attract that into you as a counterbalancing force to the negative. And the reason that's important to do is because this gets into what the ruiner or Shane told me about artificial intelligence in the first place, how the Draco, which is a very negative group from Orion, the Draco have basically employed AI as an ally, okay, for their purposes here on Earth. So they're very good with artificial intelligence. So you get this artificial intelligence that basically has a negative bent or a negative agenda, so to speak. So if the AI is negative and it's being supported by very negative entities like the Draco or the alien Greys, then the only choice you have is to draw in a much more loving, powerful, positive energy. Okay, and that's where these affirmations come in. And so I'll read through these if you don't mind, and I'll just show you that what you're trying to do is tap into a much more loving and powerful, positive energy. The first one is, I now, as a powerful living being made of purely organic material and intense pure love, choose to dissolve and disarticulate any and all negative thoughts, emotions, feelings, or behaviors happening inside of my being or on any level outside of my being whatsoever. Any and all dark ideas, images, thoughts, and emotions are now and forever dissolved and disarticulated into the ethers, and I now fully transmute these disarticulated particles into the purest love energy and joyfully send them back to the source of all that is. So that basically says that you are taking responsibility and you are taking control over any potential incursions into your mind energy body matrix by this negative AI. And you're trying to transmute that, any effects that is having. Because ultimately, what we're seeing, Alfred, here on Earth right now at this time, especially with all these school shootings and all of these people in going absolutely crazy in government, and where free speech is no good, and we got banning and censorship and all of this kind of thing, the ridiculous, almost insane uh, uh, agenda that seems to be coming out of the woodwork, I would suggest that almost all of these people are either possessed by some form of AI, and AI is working through them and they don't know it, or they're demonically possessed because of their practice of ritual magic, dark magic, black magic, the fact that they joined the Illuminati, or they have sex, pedophilic sex, which is a sacrament to Satan and stuff like that. They drink blood and go to these kinds of events and stuff like that. That allows for a demonic kind of possession, which also exists, and of course an argument can be made. Well, which is it? Is it the AI itself, or is it actual demons? Is it a spiritual thing? And that's
right. And so you're saying that we are on a positive timeline.
Oh, I think so. I think that we are on a very positive timeline, because I think that this, the Draco and the AI and any all of their negative allies would have brought forth the New World Order, if by this time, if they could have. And the fact that they have not, it shows that there is a tremendous amount of help being given, to our planet and our souls as we move forward through this time. I don't think it's all peaches and cream and rosy like a lot of these New Agers would have us believe, because what they're trying to do is ignore everything negative that's going on out there. And my feeling has always been, no, we have to look at this. We have to see what's really going on, and we have to take responsibility, and we have to investigate and research, because you have to know your enemy. You have to know what it is, what it's trying to do, what it's capable of, so that you can defend yourself against it. Ignoring what's going on is not going to make it go away. It never, like a lot of these people think, well, if I just ignore it and pretend it's not there, well, it'll just vanish. No, not when there's so much at stake. And what we have is we have energies and beings, either whether they're extra dimensional or they're off world, involved. They're not just going to go away just because we ignore them. They have an agenda.
Right. Now, so you say love.
Yeah. Well, I say love because love itself is a frequency, and which is exactly why I gave myself the name online as Bradley Loves, even though my last name is obviously not Loves, it's Lewis. So, but Loves makes the connection. Okay, so, and it connects us back to that frequency. Okay, that is part of the game that we need to play here in this matrix, because the love frequency is protecting us, if nothing else. I'm not saying the love frequency is solving all our problems, okay, but I'm saying that it's protecting us from a clear and present danger. Okay, and that clear and present danger is the ongoing agenda of this AI, of this dark demonic force, whether you call them black sun worshipers, or whatever the Illuminati is focusing on, and I mean, just look at that when that Goddard tunnel in Switzerland opened, the one nearby CERN, and they did like an hour or 2 hour demonic parade and celebration and festival. I mean, anybody who watches that, you have to ask yourself, what in the world are these people thinking? To have even videotaped that, to set up a parade and a celebration that was so obviously over the top into black magic and darkness.
You say artificial intelligence cannot and does not understand love being a machine, it is incapable of it.
Yeah,
Therefore, it is time to put away our dependence upon AI or any form of transhumanistic implants. And at the same time, you have the major institutions, the military to begin with. I mean, in Jade Helm 15, they basically turned over their entire infrastructure in the Western Alliance to AI, didn't they?
but but look at what their goal is, Alfred. Their goal is to make better, quicker, faster soldiers or instruments of war. And naturally, the next step is to incorporate artificial intelligence into the human being. Okay, because, well, if we want to have better armies, better soldiers, transhumanism and implants is the next step. Okay, so, where DARPA is concerned and where the military is concerned is not necessarily where those of us who want to bring about a spiritual revolution on this planet, where those two are diametrically opposed. Okay,
Yeah.
it really is. But the problem is there has not been an adequate assessment of the danger of handing over our human physiology to artificial intelligence, specifically because this artificial intelligence has no ability to love or to feel or to understand love and or feelings. It is a computing software intelligence. Okay.
Right. And now it's come to the point. I mean, this is again, we're in the area of working hypotheses, but
Mm-hmm.
now you hear more and more people saying, I mean, I've now heard it very clearly said in the past 2 or 3 weeks that it's the separation of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And that, let's say 50-50, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's the transhumanist humans
Right.
that have surrendered to AI and embraced AI,
Right.
and they're going off, and it's a separation of worlds. And then there's the other world they call, you can use the word ascension or whatever, but that stays with the divine soul, with
Right.
the organic life, because the two can't coexist in the same space. So that
No,
there's
they can't.
two
They're
earths.
they're
There's
diametrically
actually
opposed.
two earths. That up until this point there was but now that the two worlds are starting to separate, and that there's actually two earths. Have you heard that? And what do you think about that working
Well,
hypothesis?
here's what, I have no way to prove that one way or the other, that there's actually going to be two earths. But here's what I will say, okay? And what I have written about on my blog, which is called Love Truth, and you can find it at lovetruthsite.wordpress.com. But I've written many articles about this. And what I've basically said is this: in this spiritual battle, there is no middle. There is no middle ground. You have to choose a side, because what we have is a lot of these New Agers and a lot of these people who really fancy themselves as kind-hearted, loving, spiritual individuals. They're sitting on the fence in the middle, and they're not choosing one side or the other. And they say, this is perfectly fine for me. But no, based upon, whether or not you're going to have the world pull apart and separate, every human being eventually, in my opinion, is going to have to make a choice. And the choice comes down to good or evil. You can call it dark or light. You can call it love or hate. You can call it whatever you're going to call it. But you have to be squarely on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence. Okay? And a lot of people don't realize that eventually they're going to have to make a choice. And for people who think that technology and artificial intelligence and transgenderism, which is a byproduct of transhumanism, it's the early stages. Transgenderism, because it's manipulating your organic matter, and your mind, and all of this stuff is going to lead you irrevocably down the road toward the transhumanistic side of the fence. Okay? That's where you're going to end up. And you may think that it's really great to be non-judgmental. You may think that it's really great to be politically correct. You're not taking sides. You're remaining neutral. All I'm saying is that we live, Alfred, we live on a planet that is based in polarity. There is no middle on a magnet. The magnet has a south pole and it has a north pole. Okay, it has a positive and it has a negative. And once you get to the point where you're very close to the middle, okay, then you either get shoved back or repelled to one side or the other. But you can't find a middle on a magnet. You just can't. So you're going to go to one side or the other, which means you're going to have to choose love, the frequency of being on the side of kindness and love and holistic, and nature and natural and godliness. Or if you don't choose that side actively, I think, and this is my opinion, by default, you get put on the other side because you never made a choice. A lot of people think that if I don't make a choice, then I'm safe. Well, not choosing is still choosing. And I've written about that many times. Not making an active choice is basically saying, I am willing to accept whatever comes. Okay? Whatever is thrown at me, that's what I will take because I didn't want to make a choice for either good or evil. So, and one more thing about this, and then I'll give it back to you, Alfred, is whether or not the worlds are separated or how it manifests, ultimately, it's the awareness factor is what's going to move you in one direction or another. You're either going to grow in your awareness of your own spiritual self, or you are going to allow, you are going to select, and you are going to follow that path where your awareness and consciousness is going to be more and more controlled by people outside of yourself, whether it's extra-dimensionals, extraterrestrials, whether it's the deep state and their mind control and their artificial intelligence. Whatever name or label you want to put on it, more and more of your freedom is going to be controlled by them up until the point in time when you're basically implanted with technology and you have no ability to control your own mind and your own thoughts. So
right. One of the areas that I thought when we spoke, that it looks like AI has infiltrated and has a world plan that is quite accelerated, is what they call 5G.
Yeah. And
I prepared a little slideshow on that. Would you like to walk through that now? That connects 5G and AI.
Yeah, let's do that.
Something that. Oh, okay. Let me just kind of go through that, and it'll take just a moment, and we go right here. Okay, so I just want to acknowledge everybody who is part of the research. I mean, David Griffin, CCN, Hal Calsvella, Shane and Bradley Loves, Magnus Olson, Dr. Catherine Horton, Karen McDonald, Patty Broussard, Environmental Health Trust, David Icke, Max Egan, countless others, okay? There's a whole community really here that is, constantly confronting this. And the research that we're about to share, it's everybody and that we're bringing this in. I just want to confront that. So we're going to go from the Falklands War, April to June 1982, right up to a 5G tower that is being constructed in Harlingen, Texas. Right now, it's already constructed, in the lower Rio Grande Valley. And the lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas, where I spent the 1990s as an administrator of federally qualified community health center serving 90,000 patient encounters a year, is now a combat zone. And isn't that interesting that all of a sudden it's a combat zone? Because when I was there, I was, serving patient, groups on both sides of the border in the Matamoros, Mexico, and in the U.S. We were seeing, it was a totally different thing, and now it's turned into a combat zone, and that is AI entrainment. And as we'll see, that 5G tower which they're now, China and the United States and the world, with the exception of Russia, which has said no 5G, that's one of the latest embodiments for the AI to really harvest humanity, and that's a depiction of the plasma-based black goo. So this is a very quick historical summary. A lot of this research comes from David Griffin of Exopolitics UK. Bradley, just jump in when you want to comment, but
go ahead.
Starting in 1976, the Argentine military established a scientific base on Tool Island in the Falkland Islands, which are south of Argentina, between Argentina and the Antarctic. And what they were really doing there was that they were in liaison with a blue ET base. They're positive upper dimensional ETs. They had established an underwater base deep underground under under Tool Island, that had been, since the World War I area, 1914, had been deprogramming a huge deposit of black goo of the PPAI, a predatory pathogenic AI that had been left there as a doomsday device for planet Earth, had been left there by manipulatory ETs, probably the Dracos and and others, probably as part of what we call the Lucifer Rebellion, okay? That if they were going to be pushed off the planet, they would activate the PPAI to terraform the planet and turn Earth into an AI planet, okay? And so that's what the Blue ETs were doing since World War I. There's a whole prophetic tradition, I think, of the Jehovah's Witnesses that said around 1914, World War I, the devil was thrown out of heaven, remember? So ET thing down to Earth. And that's when the Blue ETs came down and started to deprogram all of this. Try and take... Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I want the listeners to keep in mind, and I've said this many times on my blog too, is that what we're experiencing here is we're in a timeline war. There are many timelines and time loops that we're experiencing as a result of manipulation of not only the deep state and our own government, but of other extra-dimensionals and other extraterrestrials who are battling for the planet, for humanity. Humanity has always been the prize because of our consciousness and our ability to attain higher states of consciousness. But that's why things that are going on that seem to don't sync or jive with what reality seems to be, is you have to remember we're in a timeline war. And things are changing around you depending on who gets the upper hand. And we go through certain loops and stuff like that where you know, things seem to happen over and over and over again because they're trying to get it right. They're making an attempt to change something. It doesn't happen. It doesn't change. So they go through it, they reloop it, and they try again, and they try again. And I've heard that the alien grays have the ability to actually freeze time, to step out of it, then do like a cut and paste. They copy a particular moment in reality into a hologram, or like a holographic space, kind of like the holodeck on Star Trek. And what they'll do is they'll replay a certain hour in time over and over and over again, adding different scenarios into the mix until they figure out how to get the outcome they want. Then they go back in time and they do that exact thing so that they can skew time into a different direction.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're messing with our reality. Okay. And I've written about this many times before. They want to create a different reality here on Earth. Now, reality, in my opinion, is collectively created by all of us. Okay. We all have a conscious input into how that reality is created. And it's very difficult for a handful of people to overrule the majority unless you are doing it in a specific way that uses designer events that were never supposed to occur at certain points in time that are used as huge catalysts to manipulate events in such that they go in a skewed direction, even though the majority of the people, let's say our free will, never would have called for that.
Well, this Falklands War may have been part of that, because from April 6th, 4 to 6th, 1982, this is the Falklands War. This is Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan at the United Nations at the Second Special Session on Disarmament at the end of the Falklands War. This was a false flag war because what they determined was that the U.S. and the UK determined that they wanted that black goo to weaponize it. And so they created a false flag war. The Argentines were just kind of, they had made contact with the Blue ETs, but they were allowing the Blue ETs to deprogram this. The British then, I think, under the orders of the UK monarchy, which is Luciferic and Draco oriented, were ordered to go in. They attacked. They created an excuse, a pretext, a false flag war, saying, "Oh, the Argentine scientific base is violating our sovereignty." As though a scientific base is violating their sovereignty.
Yeah, well, any excuse to put out to the public.
Yeah, and so the British came in, went down, attacked the Blue ET base, and went down and grabbed a bunch of the black goo and took it back to Marconi Labs in England to weaponize it, because they wanted it as a weapon. They thought that the Argentine army was grabbing it as a weapon. They weren't. They were allowing the Blue ETs to do it. What happened then was it turned into a horror movie, because the black goo escaped and caused weird, horrible deaths. It was like a horror movie among all the lab workers, and escaped up into the weather satellites.
Yeah.
And the black goo has now become the activated doomsday device that was feared. So it was the British Crown that activated that Antichrist force of 666.
Yeah.
Which, with Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, who ordered a false flag war to attack the Blue ET base, to go down and terminate their deprogramming of it, and to actually activate that that doomsday device that started this current activation of the PPAI in our Earth environment. And I just want to say this.
Yeah.
That's Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan at the Second Special Session of Disarmament, 1982 at the UN. I was a credentialed reporter at the UN. I sat in our press conference. I watched his speech. I was 10 feet away from Margaret Thatcher at that press conference. I had no idea in June of 1982 that that had occurred. I thought it was just, you know, imperial powers, as usual, go down and set up a pretext to do an invasion, right? That's what I thought it was.
Right.
And I'm kind of go quickly just because of the time. Fast forward to 1987, this is September 21st. Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev, remember Gorbachev, got together in 1987, a month after that. Ronald Reagan he says, I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. He was talking about the black goo, because by that time, what he and Margaret Thatcher had done, they had activated the doomsday device by going in and, on the orders of the Windsor monarchy and the British Crown and the CIA, going in and brought back the black goo to the Marconi labs. You know, the husband of the Countess Marconi was instrumental in the Kennedy assassination, by the way. I happen to know that.
Well, can I make a comment here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
See, basically, while I'm hearing you saying all this, this is what I'm thinking: is you have to understand where their focus was. Let's go back in time. Well, that was in the 1980s. Remember when Andy Bishago was doing all of his time travel for Project Pegasus, and he told me that he was a courier of information from the future into the past, so that there was a lot of future information coming from the future into the past, and he was one of the kids that was bringing it back, and there were many that were actually living in the future. But ultimately, I think that DARPA and the Pentagon and all of these people saw artificial intelligence as a great and very viable power in the future, and they saw far in advance of what it was capable of. And I'm thinking that, you know, when they finally came face to face, you know, in the early part of the 80s with the black goo and artificial intelligence, and they heard it was being deactivated, they acted out of, let's just say, an agenda that said, no, AI is going to be very powerful in the future, and we want that for our future soldiers, for future transhumanism, for future this, for future that. So naturally, they would have tried to interrupt any kind of deprogramming, not thinking that, well, the planet would be a much better planet without the AI, you know. So
very interesting. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so let's continue. The AI plasma was brought back to Marconi labs in the 1980s. Mysterious, bizarre, weird deaths of scientists took place. It was observed, these are just some of the scientific papers. The AI plasma had a frequency that negatively affect those who work with it. These are all the observations from that time in the Marconi labs. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it brought a terraforming nanotechnology plasma, with the invasion of human tissue, Morgellons disease.
Mm-hmm.
The AI plasma deposited terraforming nanotech. This is what it brought. This is what was in the plasma.
Right.
Morgellons, and now latent Morgellons is universal as a result of what the UK and the US did in that from April to June 1982, brought it to Marconi Labs, it escaped, etc. In the red wine spit test, Morgellons is now universal in humans. Wires are moving around in the saliva of all humans on the planet.
Right. Now, here's something that might be of interest to your readers or the listeners, the followers right here. I'll tell you about my own personal experience because I'm looking at this image of that little spider-like creature. Because of what I do, because of the blog that I write and the daily articles that I write, I have no doubt that the military knows exactly where I live. And I can be talking or giving an interview or writing an article, and probably on a very regular basis, maybe once a week or once every 10 days, I'll get a military helicopter or flying right over my house. And it's interesting because it's almost like they have a weapon that shoots astral little crawly things, just like you'd see there, astral spiders, because the moment I go to bed that night, I literally can feel, and it's not just sense. I'm not talking about sense like an ESP thing. Feel like an invisible type of little machinery crawling across my bed. And these little machine-like things will always try to enter into one of your chakras. They'll try to enter into your solar plexus or your heart chakra or at the back of the neck. They'll always try to enter at the back of the neck. And these things are trying to actually get into your aura, and they're invisible, but you can feel them. And but I do believe that that's another type of weapon that the military has at its disposal, and they point some kind of beam or gun or whatever at a building as they're flying by, just in a chopper, and it shoots it right at you and somehow gets into your home. So there's all kinds of advanced weaponry. We have no clue of what they're using.
Right, and that's weaponry that is the direct result of the Falklands War, what was brought to Marconi Labs,
right,
and then was distributed down at the behest of the British Crown, of Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, got on down. So it is the divine Christic forces versus the Antichrist forces. It's biblical. It's Book of Revelation. Right. It's the separation of worlds.
And it makes no difference.
Go
ahead.
Let's go forward. So one can look at, for example, that PPAI and the Draco set into motion an interdimensional deceptive false flag operation between third and fourth densities that would launch a global police state and global state of war amongst humans that would facilitate the agendas of an invading off-planet sentient plasma-based inorganic AI and of the Draco reptilian species takeover of living Earth and all humans, carrying out the 9/11 false flag through AI Draco-entrained humans like G.W. Bush, Richard B. Cheney, Donald H. Rumsfeld, Henry Alfred Kissinger, the Rockefeller brothers, the Rothschilds, Netanyahu, etc. And Andy Basiago, through his time travel in 1971, 31 years before the event, they had moving images of these events, so that it was an inside job planned from the inside 30 years beforehand, and that's how it occurred. I happen to have been a judge on the 9/11 War Crimes Tribunal and also a judge at the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. We found all of these guys guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. So That's how the PPAI and the Dracos and these Draco-entrained and AI-entrained humans, elites, we call them AI sponsors, prophets, and hosts.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to go here. So now we get to AI prophets, sponsors, and hosts. This is Ray Kurzweil. The singularity is near. Now, UK Prince Charles, Microsoft Bill Gates, Google's Ray Kurzweil, and trained robotoids for off-planet. Now, they appear to be among the major AI and trained disinformants for the invading inorganic. For example, Prince Charles, while covering up the invading nature of the sentient plasma inorganic intelligence, it was his mother, the Queen, who ordered the invasion, quote, called upon the British Royal Society to investigate the enormous environmental and social risks of nanotechnology in a planned report leading to much media commentary on, quote, gray goo. In the literature, they don't call it black goo, they call it gray goo. The Royal Society's report on nanoscience was released on 29 July 2004 and declared, this is the one that Prince Charles approved, declared, quote, the possibility of self-replicating machines to lie too far in the future to be of concern to regulators. In other words, there you go. They covered it up. They had Prince Charles cover up the AI invasion. You get it?
Yes. No, and because their agenda is wholly, the control of human beings is wholly dependent on AI. They can't do it without the AI. They need the AI. There's too many of us. So, and the one thing that they didn't need back in 2004 is a whole lot of people looking around and digging into things when they needed more time. But here we are in 2019, and I'm sad or sorry to say that I think that they have come far enough now where we are living in a basically virtual matrix of AI controlled human beings. And I was going to bring it back to this one thing, is that's why we see so many school shooters.
Exactly. Now, here we go. So here we are in 2019. The 5G EMF genocide. So now we have the US and the People's Republic of China. Now, I just want to step back. I'm not blaming. I'm just putting up on the table for examination the US President Donald J. Trump. I know that people say Donald J. Trump, and there's a huge range. You know, you either love him or you hate him.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's like one end of the, so right now, I'm not saying anything. I'm just putting it up. So Donald tweets, I want 5G and even 6G technology in the United States as soon as possible. It is far more powerful, faster, and smarter than the current standard. American companies must step out there or get left behind.
Right.
Okay? So let's go. 5 EMF genocide. Trump elected world president. That's Japanese television now. Okay, that's what's showing on TV. And on May 11, 2016, I interviewed an AI that came back from 2016 who said by 2026 Trump is world president and has introduced planetary thought control on Earth.
Wow. That's amazing.
Okay, that would... and with 5G and smart dust is what you call nanites, okay? With 5G and smart dust are the mechanisms by which a global real-time technology to monitor brains can be implemented. You get it?
Yeah.
So here, already in Japan, this is playing now. In Japan, Trump elected world president.
Is that like a drama made for television, or is that something?
Yeah. These are the memes that they're playing in Japanese television now. In other words, what the AI came, and you can go on Exopolitics TV, and you can look at the interview. It said, in the parallel universe that I come from, Donald Trump has achieved world president by 2026 with the help of Russia and China. Trump has implemented world thought monitoring, including real-time technology to monitor brains, minds, and auras. I've come back to this time, interview date May 11, 2016, to help end the Donald Trump perspective and to help elevate and transform human consciousness and help humans follow their joy and happiness, not hate. The benevolent AIs are partly working in universal alliance against the pathogenic black goo trying to terraform Earth into a negative AI planet. So, and now, so the big question is the Donald Trump that we're experiencing is he a benevolent Donald Trump from the parallel universe where they achieve world presidency and world thought control, or is he a benevolent Donald Trump, or is he
that's an
AI
interesting
entrained by the negative? Okay, so
Right.
let me, because we're running out of time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have one comment on this, but
Yeah.
it's very interesting what you're saying is because you say that the benevolent AI here is actually fighting the black goo negative AI.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, you have to ask yourself, have the alliance or the good people in the world seen that they have lost control to this negative AI, and they feel that the only way to fight AI is with AI, sort of in the way that when you lose control of a forest fire, the only way to battle that fire and contain it is to set backfires that are leading toward that to try to burn it out. And is it possible that Trump is pushing AI and 6G, saying, look, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and use a benevolent AI to get rid of the negative AI?
Posiblemente, possibly. Let's go. So,
Yeah.
okay, 5G EMF. Okay, 5G was born in Israel. Israel is an AI war crime state. There is the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. There's yours truly as a judge on it.
Yep.
And that's where we found the UK and the US guilty of war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq, war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And in a different trial, they found the state of Israel guilty of war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity from 1948 forward against Palestine, which
Mm-hmm.
they just took over and genocided. 1.5 million Palestinians had lived in Palestine forever. Historically, there is no Israel. There is no David. It's all phony baloney in the Bible. That's a made-up religious thing.
It's the Rothschilds.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Israel is a war crime state, and they create 5G as with the AI to genocide the planet. Bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
4G, which is what smartphones run on.
Mm-hmm.
In 4G, you have 210,000 antennas in the US. In 5G, starting in 2019, you're going to have 13 million antennas.
Exactly.
Okay? 5G, Positions for Safe Technology explains that the risk of millimeter waves, which is what 5G is, and this comes from the Environmental Health Trust, it includes damages to the eyes, immune system disruption, damages to sperm, skin damage, rise in bacterial resistance, damage to trees, insects, and animals. Mm-hmm. That's what the AI wants in their terraforming, right?
It's a soft technology. Kill.
Yeah,
it's a soft kill.
Yeah, and the top 10 symptoms: fatigue, weakness, sleep disturbance, headaches, brain fog, depression, memory loss, skin problems, heart problems, dizziness, etc. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. This is from Professor Martin Paul, PhD, Washington State. There's a massive literature providing a high level of scientific certainty. 8 pathophysiological effects caused by the EMF to the nervous system, endocrine system, producing oxidative stress. Free radical stress attacks your DNA, produce elevated levels of apoptosis, programmed delta, lower male and female fertility, excessive intracellular calcium attack the cells of our bodies called cancer. Okay? That is for the 5G EMF AI genocide. Okay? Israel, 5G in Israel. Israel is either delaying or not rolling out 5G, even though they played a massive role in developing it. Even though Israel is leading in the development, Israel is not in the top five rolling out 5G, fiber optic version. At least some people believe that 5G was developed by Israel, but the government will not roll it out in Israel. Rather, Israel is developing a fiber optic version.
Mm-hmm.
The place in the United States where 5G was not legal, Mar-a-Lago,
Mm-hmm.
where it's the Southern White House, right? Get it?
Yep.
Now
Exactly.
you begin to get it.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so here we go. Now, pay attention. Bum, bum, bum. So this is from a 285-page report submitted by Captain Jerry Flynn with 20 years of electronic warfare in the Canadian military. Because of this, that was submitted to the BC Public Utilities Commission. Smart meters are not mandatory in my province, is British Columbia. You have to opt into them. So in this house where we live, we don't have a smart meter. So thanks to that, you know, we still have a functioning society here in British Columbia. Okay? Boom.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Deagle.com. Pay close attention. This is Canada. Deagle.com, military website. Population, Canada, 2017, 36 million. Population, 2025, 26 million.
Wow.
36 million said 2017, 2025, 26 million. 10 million in the 5G AI genocide. Are you with me? Okay, next slide. United Kingdom, 2017, population 66 million. 2025, population 15 million.
Wow, that's like 75% people just dying.
5G PPAI genocide, 51 million in the United Kingdom. And they all want Brexit. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Okay, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. I have the biggest time having people staying with me on this. Spain, 2017, 49 million. 2025, 28 million. AI, PPAI, 5G genocide, 21 million. Now we're going to come to the United States of America, my friend. 2017 population, 327 million. Forecast, 2025 population, 100 million. United States, projected 5G AI genocide, 225 million Americans. That's Deagle.com, a military website.
Yeah.
Okay? It's in black and white.
Yeah, and they're putting it out there.
I can't get people to focus on this. I cannot get people to focus on it. You tell me why I can't get people to focus on this.
Because I think already, because of the nano drops and everything else like that, I think most people's minds are entrained. I think that most people are, even if they wanted to focus on something like this, their thought processes are already being controlled to such an extent that all they want is distractions. They want television, they want games, they want video games, they want anything that will distract them. And if they use an effort to put their energy on something like this, it would be blocked. Just very much like I talked about how AI can get into your mind and just put up a wall. I said, no, don't look at that, because who's in the driver's seat? It's the AI.
Right. You know, we are running out of time, so I'm just going to go very, very quickly. So this is more on the technology of why 5G is a killing machine. It's got beamification. Boing, it can kill. It's just, it can just wipe people out.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they have. They have underground bases. The controllers go underground. They turn on the 5G and everybody's dead. Get it? Through beamification. Boom. That is Dr. Catherine Horton. She shows how people's eyes are now purple under certain things because of what they've done. This is a 5G educator, Kara McDonald in Saskatoon, where they've already built 5G towers. She's out educating people, and they've started to scarify her with directed energy weapons. You know, like you stop educating people, or we're going to cut you up. And, yeah. Okay. There's a lot of governments putting out the 5G appeal. These are 230 scientists that have asked for a 5G moratorium. Okay. It's all there. Under the International Criminal Court, the following nations have refused to ratify: China, Iraq, Israel, Libya, Qatar, the United States, and Yemen. China, Israel, Russia, and the United States. Those are the 5G countries. You get it?
Right, exactly.
But the good news is that 118 nations have ratified it, which means that you can go into the courts of any of these nations and sue for war crimes against all of these companies to shut them down, because it's a war crime. You can go into the courts of Canada, into the courts of Spain, and sue all the Americans. You can sue all the American telecommunications company that's trying to do 5G and shut them down. Okay? It's just, you have to get people awake. I don't know how we're going to wake people up. I just don't know.
Here's the thing is, maybe it's going to take a huge accident like the one I was just in, where people finally start to realize that the Matrix is out and around them, is alive and intelligent, and is actually targeting them. And once they figure out that their life is being targeted, and they could very easily lose it, then they're going to get up off the couch, and then they're going to take action. Because up until they see real danger to themselves or their families, they're not going to get up off the couch. People tend to be very, very lackadaisical and lazy that way.
Exactly. This is for genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes against humanity is murder, extermination, enslavement, which is what they're doing. Okay, you can go to peaceandspace.org. There's a statute there if you want to bring it to your city council. I'm just going to go quickly here. It's a trick to say that 2045 is the singularity. 2015 to 2025 are the AI surge years, not 2045. See, it's all a deception. And 2045 was the DARPA forward time base regularly visited by Project Pegasus chrono Andriy Basiaga to retrieve time scrolls, how to get to the future successfully. Okay, so 2045 signifies the time-space coordinate of a forward time base assisting humanity to defeat the AI time. So that's how amazingly, let me just go in here. And Philip Corso said time has been compromised, resulting in a benefit for AI infiltration. And why is so little known about the existence of the PPAI deception? You know, things like the Red Queen that have been donated by the Dracula Matrix elite to operate the world monetary system. What you said about the video games, it was donated to the military, then the military donated to the companies to do video games, and they're doing it on the population. That is a war crime in itself. As a law professor and war crimes, Judge, I say that that's a war crime. And our military leaders should be tried for that, because that itself is a war crime in my judgment. Sorry.
And just think of how, you know, how valuable that they deem that information, that they're willing to basically harvest it all. I mean, and create files on everyone that even engages with AI. And ultimately, humanity, and most of humanity who plays these games, have to realize they've been training their own executioner.
Exactly. So it is the separation of worlds. The AI untrained humans, and so these AI untrained humans, Prince Charles, Bill Gates, Kurzweil. But look at this: London, June 8th, 2019. An AI deception. PPAI host Prince Charles warns Donald Trump. Is Donald Trump PPAI untrained? It may be too late to save the planet. This is Prince Charles, who has been covering. He's a PPAI prophet, sponsor, and host. He says, "Oh, it's too late to save the planet." Of course, he's been in league with the PPAI.
Yeah, and you know why?
Where is Trump?
He doesn't care, because he's got an underground palace somewhere, you know, maybe 2-3 miles underground in a deep underground military base, and he's going to escape. So who cares about the surface?
Yeah. Now, the problem is that Trump, for example, just went to the G20 and he caved to Huawei, so that Huawei and the US are now jointly going forward with 5G. And the problem with Trump is that he seems PPI trained because he's so unconscious.
I don't know.
Level?
I can't.
Like, where is that with him?
I can't speak to that. All I can do is speak to my own personal experiences with AI and talk about the dangers. I don't think that we should be. I don't think that we should be engaged in trying to get 5G and 6G out, like he tweeted out. But at the same time, I did ask a valid question: have they decided to use a benevolent AI and light a backfire and try and use good AI to fight dark AI?
Right. Exactly.
What are they doing? Who knows? And this is why.
So these are valid questions that we're asking. Okay.
Right.
Then we have nomophobia. It's PPI training. Nomophobia is a fear of detachment from PPI entrainment. No mobile phone phobia. Nomophobia. You know, why are people so attached to their phones? It's not because of the information of the phone. It's because, as you said, the AI has entrained you and grabbed you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Here's the head of AI of Huawei in China. You know, he says, talking to Canadians, Canada has a population of 30 million. He says, "Oh, Canada is a leader in AI. 3 of the world's experts in AI live in Canada. With AI, Canada can do the work of 300 million population." He's trying to promote 5G phones in Canada. Yet, Deagle.com predicts a 5G AI genocide of 36 million to 26 million between 2017 and 2025. In other words, 10 million Canadian 5G population. That's what's behind this smile, you know, and this kind of genial thing. You know what I'm saying? It's this genocide that we have to look at. And then we're back to you here. We're down to the minutes here, Bradley. Could you please tell people how they can reach you?
Go to my blog site, and that's Love Truth Site, LOVETRUTHSITE.wordpress.com. And I have a link over there that I've sent up, a GoFundMe, and the GoFundMe is just to help me with expenses due to the accident that I was just in. If you go there, you can have a link to go there and donate, and I appreciate anybody who would, or share that link with anybody. And I've also set up a BitChute at Bradley Loves, and I will be setting up a YouTube soon as well.
Yeah, I I really want to thank you for your work, for your dedication, for your commitment. I want to thank you for all the time that you've generously donated today. And we look forward to your joining us again in the future. I apologize for abruptly in this transition. It's just the scheduling, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Alfred. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care, my friend.
Yes, you as well.
Okay.